Canadian miners have any specific advantage over like miners from the US?
The attributes that Bitcoin has that allows for such a fundamental upgrade in that
everything is in Bitcoin.
We're just to the stage of they'd be like, what are you talking about? You're crazy.
I'm the real Al's Lacrosse.
And I think it's going to happen faster because of the network effects on Bitcoin.
We are live, y'all. How is it going? This is CK. I'm trying to adjust the screen. All right, we got a 9 square for us, you guys, and we might be going 10. So this is a full house for Drinks in Quarantine on October 29th. You guys, I'm very excited to have this group of gentlemen. We have a long list of really exciting and bullish news for Bitcoin. So without further ado, let's just go straight into introductions. Like I said, I'm CK. I am the host. I'm going to pass it off to my co-host, Joe, and then from there, we'll go on to Phil.
Everyone, Joe Rodgers here at _Joe Rodgers. Do some of the content planning over here at Bitcoin Magazine and a bunch of other things. So happy to be here. And yeah, let's have some fun on this one. I'll pass it over to Crypto Cloaks.
Oh, I'm next. Sweet. Look at that. What's up? I'm Rick from Crypto Cloaks. I pretty much run it. And then I have Lami and SF with me too that help out on the team, which is awesome. Thanks for having me, I guess.
Pass it.
Cool.
Phil. Passed it. Phil.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. Drinks Quarantine, all that jazz. My name's Phil Gibson. Got a podcast called A Boy Named Sue. I'm also a musician with the help of Richard James over here, who I'll pass it on to next. But I got a song called ETF, aka End the Fed, and we're here talking Bitcoin and chilling. So thanks for having me, guys.
Hey guys, I'm Richard James. It's morning here, so I'm still on the coffee. But maybe you know me from I put together a little film called Hard Money. Phil and I just collaborated on a cool project for his awesome music video. But I'm into Bitcoin, filmmaking, and Austrian economics. That's my shtick. So who should I pass to? Denver?
Hey, what's up, guys?
I don't know who the hell Lami is.
My name is Adam. I'm Denver Bitcoin. I'm the founding partner of Stranded Energy Investments. I'm just somebody that invests in the energy and Bitcoin mining space, and talks Bitcoin all day with you fine folk on Twitter. I'll say that I'm excited to debate this, and I'll go ahead and pass it over to George.
Right on. Thank you. My name is George, and I'm at G McHale on Twitter. I co-founded an organization called Bitcoin Is, which started out with an event in LA last year and has sort of morphed into a laboratory of sorts. We're experimenting with a bunch of different projects in the Bitcoin space. What's up, Andrew? And also help co-lead a meetup here in Southern California with my boy Brian Harrington. So good to be here. Excited to chat. And I'll pass it to Andrew.
Yo, my name's Andrew. I go by eCurrency Hodler on Twitter. I run a Bitcoin meetup here in LA. It's called BitDevs LA. It's kind of cool because George and I, we're growing the SoCal Bitcoin scene. So it's been super dope. So next I also did marketing at River Financial for about a year, and now I'm at Casa as a client advisor. So if you all have some questions about multi-sig, let me know. I'm gonna click call on Phil. Did Phil go?
So actually,
I went
for
this
person. So let's go to Randy.
Randy, go ahead.
Hello, Randy McMillan, Bitcoin enthusiast. Actually, something that I wanted to mention is I've recently started doing some research in Bitcoin accessibility for blind users. And so that's kind of like a fringe research topic that I'm trying to get into, and it's kind of interesting. So that's just something I'm into lately. So
that's really dope.
Yeah.
Cheers, man. Getting on top of that UX for sure.
Just trying to think of using Bitcoin, or at least my Bitcoin setup, without being able to see, or that would be pretty much impossible. I don't know how to do it.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. There's some crazy shit I saw today. That was 3D, how to 3D print with the blind, and it's this giant 3D printed box that has little individual pedestals that they can feel that changes. Just saying, maybe it helps you with Bitcoin, but it was pretty freaking.
Hold on. Was it like at Spencer's where you have the little Spencer's
those pin things?
Yeah, it has the pin things.
Yes. And it kind of like popped up, like depending on what the words were or something. I got to look into it more, but it was crazy.
That's wild. Cheers.
Yeah. All right, guys. Yeah. What is everyone drinking? This is Drinks in Quarantine, of course.
Bud Light.
With Richard, I got an Irish coffee here.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
Sounds good.
I'm a cheap date. Jack and Coke. It's my go-to.
All the White Claw people will be disappointed. I'm drinking a phony.
Those things are shit.
White Claw.
Dude, you have to burn your pants.
White Claw.
Alt claws.
Alt claws.
Fucking alt claw, dude.
All right, guys.
I'm trying to finish off a bottle of wine I opened last weekend. It was in the fridge, so I think it's good, but it's a
question.
Jolice.
It's not good.
The Pinot.
It's not good.
All right, guys.
Hey, circa 2017 to all of you class of 2017ers out there.
Nice.
Wow. So it's a special. All right, guys.
In the end, the Fed mug.
So let's talk about, first we have one drinking rule. It's the Brian Armstrong rule. He never says Bitcoin, and we can't say Bitcoin on this show. So you have to come up with a different word for our favorite coin. But outside of that, let's just jump into our first topic. Michael Saylor today has been making a ton of news, for a while, but he tweeted out today that MicroStrategy actually runs a Bitcoin node. And that they are proud of it. I mean, he's obviously Bitcoin woke. And I'm going to double drink. Hold me accountable, guys, because the Brian Armstrong.
I will.
Yes. So, I mean, what does this mean? Like, I guess, just posing this for the group, like, reactions to the Michael Saylor entrance into the BTC space. And, I guess, even MicroStrategy running a node, does that surprise you? Like, what do you think? Let's jump to Cloaks, because Cloaks has been smithing node hardware for a while here.
Yeah, man. I mean, I try to say a node in every home, but the fact that he did that on his own is pretty crazy for a huge corporation if you think about it. So, I mean, he's probably the first one. I feel like, right? Maybe. I don't know.
It'd be foolish for them not to, right? I mean, considering the volume, the amount of Bitcoin, damn it, that they're holding.
Exactly. I feel like
if they weren't actually verifying, it'd be just foolish.
Did they validate their own?
Yeah, that's just irresponsible.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the question, because they're always.
That's true.
Yeah, they're using a third party for custody. So if they didn't use it to verify their own purchase of Bitcoin, then it's kind of a bit of a show. That argument. Yeah.
Do you guys think they went super
going forward? Right.
Do you guys think they went super institutional, like with a BitGo, or do you think they secretly went like a little more low key, like Casa or Unchained?
Oh, I don't know.
There's no way they did that.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I think they're too big with that amount. There's no way. Yeah.
I think the tweet and just announcing it is the biggest part of the whole situation. Just the leadership that they continue to exhibit, I think is the headline. Like the technical details and sort of how they're going about it probably matters less than the fact that they're doing it and they're talking about it, setting an example.
Yeah, I agree. It legitimizes the process as well as the specifics of what these weird Bitcoiners are doing on Twitter. Drink.
I'm just excited they're pushing nodes. I mean, a lot of people say why run one, but I'm all for it. Every home should have one. So
there's a part of me though that thinks like Michael Saylor's just totally embracing this Bitcoin celebrity status like way too much. Like what was it yesterday?
Andrew, that's one.
Yes, fact. I'm with Andrew 100%. Maybe a little bit. I think they're pushing it.
Andrew, continue. Let's try not to interject too much.
No, yesterday
I was just counting people saying Bitcoin. So Andrew, that's one.
Oh
Silence
shit!
yourself, Phil. Silence yourself. Andrew, back to you.
So I mean, he just tweeted how much he had, right? Like that's insane. And it wasn't like chunk change; it was like in the millions. That guy's insane. I would never advertise to the world that I own like 5 figures worth of Bitcoin. That's too.
He's the hero. He's the hero that we deserve, though. He's absolutely the hero that we deserve. We need.
Guys. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I mean, all day, every day, we're all on Twitter, dropping screenshots and trying to big dick each other on Bitcoin buys. And then this guy comes on and he drops an aircraft carrier on us. And you guys are going to criticize him? I mean, am I high right now?
No, I'm with you.
What the hell? You know, I mean, give me a
agree.
break. The guy just came in and chatted all of us out and legitimized all of us at the same time. You know, I mean, I think we ought to just either stay quiet or.
What he did is dope. I mean, he's setting a trend and all that stuff. But you know what about like that Bitcoin node stuff? What I would really be interested in is if he'd be willing to run a Lightning node, because he's all about enterprise level software type stuff, right? That's what MicroStrategy is. So it'd be interesting if he can get in the Lightning game and like kind of push the boundaries on that aspect as well. Like that would be really dope.
I just see no reason for him to do that.
I mean,
I'm sorry to
I mean, the guy puts like,
I could see him
$300 million
go
in
deeper
Bitcoin.
into Bitcoin cold storage. I could see him go deeper into like potentially like mining or something enterprise related to that. Like I don't know. Like I just feel like Lightning is so experimental still, versus like Bitcoin. He's into Bitcoin for the core value prop, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he doesn't start mining that stuff.
Hey, I wanted to throw something in here as a lot of people push running a full node, but I think that if somebody can't do that, they should at least consider running a light or a pruned node, because it still helps the network with like block propagation and this kind of stuff. And so, because I mean, I run my own stuff and I look at some of the statistics, and about a third of my connections are actually, light clients. And so I think it's important that people help the network in any way they can, even if they can't invest like the time and energy into running a full node. Is go ahead and run a pruned node. It still helps the network.
A pruned node is.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, because I saw in the comments of Saylor's post there, he said something like, we're proud to be doing our part to support the network. And then you see people chime in and go, this is a stupid narrative. There's no such thing as supporting the network. All you're doing is you're verifying for yourself. And then other people chime in and say, no, it is helping the network. So I'm interested in what you guys think about that debate.
That is
does
just
it help the network?
As similar as it is kind of with price discovery, like people not knowing what the value or price Bitcoin is supposed to be. This is people learning about what Bitcoin really is and what gives it its value. There's a lot of things that give Bitcoin its value, but for the first time in history, we have this monetary asset that everyone can validate, because you can't audit the Fed. You can try, maybe wait like 5 years when they release a report or whatever the hell it is. But this is, oh my God, CK, I'll see you in hell, buddy. But this is the first time in history that you can actually validate the supply of the hardest money in the world. And so, that's a giant ass learning curve for the average pleb or the pre-coiner.
I think to Richard's question, I mean, is it something that helps grow the space, or is it something that merely is beneficial to the indivial? I think, is that what you were kind of pointing toward, Richard?
Yeah, and I think it is beneficial to the network. It is as an ephemeral general concept, but that seems to be seen as like a naive viewpoint.
I might disagree with you a little bit.
I'm interested to hear.
Right. I mean, just because I don't know how me setting up a node is helping to grow Bitcoin, right? I don't know. I mean, I think it's helping me to ensure that I can validate my own keys, and then it's helping me to defend my real estate on it, if you will. But I don't know how other than maybe like the network effect of me telling people and being able to demonstrate it and understand it and those kinds of things. So yeah, maybe ancillarily.
Time out. I
haven't thought about it enough. Maybe.
Hold on.
I don't know if I want.
I have a flow chart for you real quick.
On that, but
I have a flow chart.
Let's go, Joe.
Is this good for Bitcoin? And then what is the next thing? What does the next block say? The answer is yes.
Yes or no?
I also want to jump in here too. So this is a classic argument. It's like people say a node is only good if you actually use it, like to validate your own Bitcoin. And I would say like that's like the full sovereignty package. Is you use a node and then you only rely on that node. You rely on no one else's node. But outside of that, like the fact that there is another redundant copy of the ledger somewhere that is controlled by an independent human being that is choosing those rules, period, that is good for the ledger. So I just will reject anyone who
not
says
good or
that
bad,
it's
but
not good for the ledger.
Oh, I mean, CK,
No, I mean,
it's
not-
like to your point,
does it help
CK,
it
it's
grow,
just like the
right?
same
Does it-
argument that like hodling is using. Hodling, saving Bitcoin, just having it in the first place is using. And that same principle can be applied to just running your node. I run a node. I don't fucking use my node, but it runs and I'm part of the network and I'm making the network that much stronger.
Get on
No, I think it's a good thing.
I set it up like the
right? I mean,
week before BitBlock boom.
I mean,
Come on.
To say running
I'm
node
new.
is bad
Give
or
me some
something would be
slack.
ridiculous. I'm just saying I don't know if it like pushes growth, right? I don't think it.
Talking mainstream growth, then.
It just depends on how you define.
No, I'm just
growth
talking
too, right? Like
that's what I'm. That's
yeah,
kind
growth
of
of
maybe where we're
the
at,
network.
right?
Like some pleb like me got the idea and understood the importance of what it actually means to run a node. Even if you're not like condemn me all you want, but even if you're not actually using your node and validating other Bitcoin, even if you're not doing that, the fact that you are still one more node added to the network makes it that much stronger. And then that's also neglecting like the increase of hash rate that we've seen just in this year alone. But still, like the more people that learn like piece by piece, like cookie crumb by cookie crumb of what Bitcoin is, and the more that they throw themselves into it and the technology alone, the more robust or actually anti-fragile the network becomes. So any node, even if it's just sitting there, is still a node part of the network.
Yeah. So Richard, like from a technical perspective, I would say like running a node does help the network. I'm not sure if it secures it, but it helps it in the sense that it relays transactions, it relays blocks, and you're keeping an extra copy, right? And so that's helpful. That's actually helpful and beneficial to the Bitcoin network.
Even pruned nodes do that.
Yeah.
And that was my point.
Yeah.
Getting nuanced here.
It's a good point.
But like the actual, like the truest benefit of running a node is that you verify all the transactions yourself. That's like the highest benefit of running a full node. So it is functional, it is helpful, but like the best like value that a node has for you as an individual, as a sovereign individual, is that you verify your own transactions in your own ledger.
Absolutely. I need to get on that.
Absolutely, and I'm with you there. I suppose at the margin, I can see that it doesn't make a difference. Like, okay, are there 15,000 reachable nodes or 15,001? That makes no difference. But if you take it back to first principles, if there's 0 nodes, then there is no such thing as the network. So I guess
like even right, like 15,000 to 15,001. But every node helps because like if you run a full node, the idea is that you should have some light clients that would be able to like reference it in some shape or form, right?
True.
And so and a full node can only service so many light clients at a time. And so by adding a node, then you're actually helping other light clients reference your node to operate as a wallet, right? And so I think it is valuable in that sense too.
And you look at it as every node is kind of like how every vote counts, every node counts, because if you didn't have any nodes, you wouldn't have a freaking network.
I don't know about the vote thing, the counting thing. I'm not sure that's like a great representation. I think with the UASF, it was kind of like just telling people, hey, I'm supporting this. Like I'm a fan of this, but I'm not sure like, oh, this node is like a vote. Like vote for what? Like I don't know.
Think about it this way. We should
a new. Sorry, go ahead.
We should anticipate a lot of new users, and they might just download an iOS app or something, and that's going to be a light client, and potentially it's going to be a strain on the network because all of these new users with their light clients are going to be requesting blocks and transaction information. And just think about it, a low bandwidth like website, when it gets overloaded, it shuts down. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen there, but I'm just saying bandwidth consumption is going to be an issue. And like I said, a third of my connections are light clients. They're SPV nodes. And it's just like, I look at the bandwidth consumption and I think it's going to turn into an issue as we go forward.
And dude, Randy, to your point, like think back in the last bull run or even fucking a year ago. Like think of how many light clients were not available. Like if the majority of people that are light clients are running like a portion of the blockchain or what the time chain rather, I mean, just think of like how far we've come in such a short time that those options are available. Like that's super bullish.
Yeah. But with that comes like huge bandwidth consumption for the people that are running nodes, whether they're full or pruned nodes. Like I said, a third of the connections are like SPV nodes, and it's anyway. I don't want to get hung up on it, but
I fear getting too stuck up in the minutia of nodes, but I do want to point out the fact that it is really miraculous to me to watch Bitcoin's organic growth, and as people grow through the Bitcoin education cycle, you know, they're downloading SPV nodes, and then the next step of Bitcoining is they start running nodes that maybe they don't use fully, but those nodes start helping those SPV nodes down the stack, and just continues to go down. You know, the forward progress is never going to be orderly, right? But it's happening, and it's happening in the right direction, which is just so bullish. And I'll drink to saying the B word.
I think it's a great point, CK. I mean, I was not running a full node day one. It is a journey, and this is good for Bitcoin. All PR is good PR.
Oh, all right, so let's switch back to like companies getting onto the corn bandwagon. Like, it feels like there's an avalanche about to spill over. Does anyone have a strong opinion here? I tend to want to go to George because I just think that he's talking to people that we're not talking to. So I'm just curious to see what he thinks here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the headline. He's creating a blueprint for other CEOs, how to talk to your boards, how to talk to the decision makers, how to normalize this, right? Like, we have to admit that at some level, talking about Bitcoin in normal context outside of Bitcoin Twitter is still a little bit weird for people. It's hard to get people to even engage in the conversation. I don't really understand why that is. I feel like we should be a little bit further along in like the normalization of it, and number go up, we'll fix that. And as the rally continues, I think there's more people who are open-minded and curious. But at the highest levels of some of these organizations, I think people are starting to ask the right questions, and I think Michael Saylor is going to be someone that they look to. He's created that the resource page where he's kind of gathered all like their notes from what they did, and I think that's the headline. Like, we need. Well, it's going to happen one way or the other, right? Companies are going to get into Bitcoin. It's going to keep happening, and so like my next question is, when are the exchanges going to start running out of Bitcoin with all of this buying? Are we just going to wake up one day,
George?
Yeah.
And to add to that too, I think in the Bitcoin space, the MicroStrategy news might reverberate more loudly, considering the volume, right, of the size of the investment. But I think it's likely that Square's investment, their $50 million 2% cash allocation into Bitcoin, might have even more of an impact in kind of the financial space, because they did lay out the blueprint in writing and they posted it when they made that purchase, right? So they talked about how they did it, why they did it, and actually tried to build a blueprint out. And then I think MicroStrategy came back like a week later and complimented them and was like, hey,
right.
This is how we did it.
Right.
So which was great for everybody. I mean, it's there's no one-upping. I don't think it matters. I think it's all good.
Yeah,
of course. But yeah, I think that Squares was really big, and why they did it, and they're out, and then the MicroStrategy came a really big driver, complimented them.
I think that's
how we did it.
Right.
So which was great for everybody. I mean, it's there's no one-upping. I don't think it matters. I think it's all good.
Yeah,
of course.
Sorry. I just point out that I just don't think it was wise for him to disclose his personal value, because I mean the extortion factor and like personal security just like went through the roof with him, and it's just so.
That was a big dick move, and he better watch out.
Yeah, here's something that I've been saying, and like here's a reality that is just a true reality. There's going to be big, smart people that enter into this space like rock stars that are going to be Bitcoin newbies, straight up. So that was a straight newbie move. It was a Chad move. It was awesome. Again, is this good for Bitcoin? but is it necessarily good for Michael Saylor and his family? You
Oh,
know, he
no.
hasn't necessarily been thinking like a adversarial Bitcoiner for years. You know, he's only been in this game for a few months now.
Yeah, or it's
How much
intentional.
did he say? Wait, he released his personal amount that he
bags.
owns?
Yeah, he just tweeted about it. He's like,
Yeah, it was
I
like
own
it was like
90,000 plus
17,000 coins.
17,000, and I'm spreading hearsay.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely possible that he knows exactly what he's doing. Also,
Yeah,
know.
he could be lying.
He could be lying. He could have way more than that, or way less. Probably way more. Or he just is like, bring it. I've already thought this through. Like
He could be long as shit on BitMEX, and he's just like, let's pump this shit.
You know, you do have a point on the second part of the Peter McCormick episode. It was really cool. He went to talking about really the real estate loophole for taxes, and then he got into, look, if you need cash, you just like borrow against your real estate, but you know the value of real estate is kind of dog shit to some extent, and this is why you have cool services like Unchained and BlockFi. But like it's not the safest bet, but it is interesting. You know, maybe he is doing that, and maybe for a lot of institutional players that will be kind of like their safe haven. Like they put their entire treasury into Bitcoin, and then when they do need cash and Bitcoin boons, as we all hope it does, but you know, before it actually becomes money, people are going to be use it as how Powell characterizes it as like the most supreme form of collateral that really humanity has ever seen. And, you know, God forbid we have like another 30% or whatever the hell drop it was. Maybe it was 50 back in March. I don't really see that happening. You know, if Bitcoin is supposed to be 100K sometime next year, and and if it keeps going up because of S2F, if you believe in that, we're just, you know, supply and demand. And we all know what the supply of Bitcoin is and the diminishing issuance. You know, it only makes sense that it is going to serve as that kind of tool for not just Michael Saylor, but for anyone else to put their treasury in and, you know, fighting against the legacy system and all the cracks that are in it. You know, you have Bitcoin that continuously goes up and you get to use your Bitcoin, not even your entire stash. You know, maybe one coin will serve your business right, and you can use that to borrow against it and use that capital that capital to get fiat and put it back in your business. Probably like derailed what the hell we were talking about, but bottom line is, you know, Saylor, what he's saying about his own stash is picking up a lot of heat and getting people's attention, and that's really what matters. People's attention, whether they like Bitcoin or not, Bitcoin has their attention, and that is kind of like why we say everything's good for Bitcoin, because as long as someone's talking about Bitcoin, no matter what the context is, that's good for Bitcoin. And it's only going to make more sense since we are seeing bond yields going negative in, you know, the 10-year bond yield. It's only going to make sense, be intuitive, that people put their entire treasury into Bitcoin. And Jeff Booth,
aren't you the one keeping the Bitcoin count score?
Yeah, what the hell is he at now? Holy shit!
Like I'll finish this thing, like I will, like, but it only makes sense that that people use the corn as solid collateral, borrow against it at first, and then it becomes the monetary asset that we all dream that it does.
Remember, it's best to borrow against your corn when it's actually at a low. Lowers your chance of
True. Yes. Yes.
I'm
March
curious.
12th was a very sad day.
Did they publish their like quarterly like report yet? I don't know if I saw that.
Yeah,
or
they
not,
did.
but-
It was yesterday, I think, or Tuesday.
Joe Rodgers.
Yeah, Joe put out a thread. It was.
Yeah, I didn't look into the like 10K or the actual earnings, but I did join the earnings call, and let me tell you guys, it was quite bullish. There was not one negative thing said on the entire call.
Nice.
Every product manager, every business unit was praised. Has been a fantastic year, and I think that you know, their Bitcoin treasury holdings pumping definitely added to that. I mean, it was kind of front and center on all the overview slides, and then they had several slides dedicated strictly to Bitcoin holdings, and they had a live Q&A strictly about it at the end of the call. So overall, MicroStrategy as a business, I think, is benefiting from the Bitcoin holdings. They mentioned that they're getting a lot of additional sells and inquiries as a result of this. And I didn't know shit about MicroStrategy. I don't think anyone did, but now I do.
Nope.
I know what the heck they do. And I mean, I'm bullish. I think that right now, MicroStrategy is the Bitcoin ETF. You know, they're the one on the market available right now.
ETF plus cash flow.
If you want to see your fiat go up, you want to invest in stonks, MicroStrategy is probably a safe
You just
bet,
broke
man.
Barry Silvert's heart.
I suspect he's been approached. I suspect
what
he's
you guys
approached by other CEOs, privately about this. So go ahead.
Hey man, at the end of the day, it's all about quad 4.
Richard.
I was just going to say, like, I don't know a lot about MicroStrategy's traditional business, but whether, and I've been interested. I didn't sit on the earnings call, but there is like I've seen criticism, like mainstream criticism, that MicroStrategy as a business is struggling to stay relevant a little bit, and that the Bitcoin play is kind of like a way to distract from that. And
I believe
there may be truth in that, and I think it's the Bitcoin play is a great play. But yeah, like I'm just looking at their profits, going back over the decades, and they've been consistently, 2015, 2016, they were over 100 million. But the last financial year, they made a loss. Like I'm just looking at a chart. I don't know much about this. And then 2018, they didn't really make any profit either. So, I just think maybe there is some truth to that mainstream criticism. Like, I guess Bitcoiners are just incredibly bullish on MicroStrategy, and I've heard a lot of talk about the fact that Saylor plans to continue to add to the treasury of Bitcoin, but I guess that's relied on MicroStrategy continuing to actually generate cash flow from their other businesses. Maybe
that makes
this.
I was gonna say, I think
that's it.
The fact is that they've been in business for, like you said. I mean, you're going back and looking at decades. I mean, MicroStrategy has survived a long time. So I think maybe their profits have been weak the last 3 or 4 years, but it doesn't sound to me like there's some company that reached a peak and it was on some dying fall and reached for Bitcoin as the umbrella to criticism from shareholders and to kind of distract from mainstream criticism or something like that. But maybe there's something there. That being said, I mean, at the end of the day, this is an emerging asset class, and any big move into Bitcoin like this is gonna look radical to a huge section of the financial industry, especially those reporting on it, because it just seems outlandish and desperate to those who still think Bitcoin is this irrelevant nothing.
So I do this show with David Hoffman, who is a prominent ETH head, and he was he was giving that criticism, right? He was saying that, oh, this is a failing business making a desperate move, whatever. And I would say, who cares? I am concerned with what is good with Bitcoin.
Amen.
And let me tell you, there is a shitload of dying, irrelevant zombie companies in the ecosystem, in the economy. This ecosystem is rife for someone
this
to
might be
jump
their
onto
lifeboat.
The Bitcoin innovation. Who cares?
Yeah, I don't think you're...
I don't own very much MicroStrategy. I own a lot of Bitcoin. Like, that's what I care about. So I care about what's good for Bitcoin. So you can push that FUD line, whatever, but that's just some weak salt as far as I'm concerned. A
lot of companies pivot. A lot of companies pivot into different markets. This could be some broader strategy for the company as a whole to pivot into a whole different market. I don't know exactly what that is, but maybe. Go ahead.
A lot of skin in the game to learn about Bitcoin.
Oh no, I just want to say, you're not a zombie company if your treasury is $500,000 or $500 million, and they definitely have taken a different turn. Like in the past month or so, I'm on LinkedIn and looking at options, and I saw I have my notification for Bitcoin jobs or crypto jobs, and MicroStrategy comes up, and I see the shit that they are hiring for. But also they've changed their marketing. They changed their logo. It used to be just it said MicroStrategy in red, and now it they went pink or something, and it's an M with towers or some shit. So they're definitely using Bitcoin as leverage to pivot in their direction. But Oh, I got a drink.
Mark.
I know. I'm sorry. But hey, that only says that Bitcoin is doing its job. Like, this is good for Bitcoin, hands down, that people are able to use it as a safe haven to redirect their company or to liquidate all of the cash that they need if you have another bloody Thursday. And this just really constitutes, one of the use cases of why we have Bitcoin.
One of my favorite parts of all this MicroStrategy is how triggered Ethereum like thought leaders are right now. And
Shut up. I know, CK.
The Ethereum thought leaders right now, they're like the ugly stepsister at their hot sister gets asked out to the prom, and they're like the ugly sister that just gets rejected. And they're all like, Ethereum's scarcer than Bitcoin. And I'm like, yo, like, how much even Ethereum is there right now? Like, how can you even claim that it's scarce?
The thing they got is $2 billion are on Ether right now or whatever. Is what they keep praising now. That's their biggest thing. They just care about Bitcoin. So
This is not an Ethereum podcast, so let's move
I
on.
think now every time someone says the E word, they need to drink twice as much, because that's
Look who's talking,
only
bro.
one rule here, and it's working just fine. It's working just fine. All right.
I think the whole thing. Can I just say one last thing
yes.
on this? I think with the whole FUD about they're struggling, so they're reaching for Bitcoin. First of all, I agree with what CK said. Like, who cares? It's also one of my favorite narratives. I'm like, that's perfect, right? Because it validates so much of what we're talking about. Like, the old world is dying. Like, what industry is thriving right now? What company is just
Amazon.
killing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
That's
it's
pretty
seriously
much-
one.
that's pretty
It's
much
like
it.
there's
That's
these
one.
5 leaders in tech, and nothing else is doing well.
Bang.
Yep. No, you got me there. Amazon, definitely. But other than that, it's like, what old school company that's just like has a bunch of cash? When I hear Michael Saylor talk, he talks about this dilemma of, I got too much cash. What the fuck do I do with this? Where do I put this? And
real
his
estate,
only-
apartments. Just kidding, don't do that.
his
But a lot
only
of
answer is
construction
Bitcoin.
work for new apartments in Austin is definitely on the way, because everyone's leaving everywhere to move to Texas. But sorry, commence.
No, that's okay. I think any fixed asset, right? Any hard asset, but definitely Bitcoin
Hard asset,
at the
real
top of
estate.
that list. Yeah. So I just think it's one of those situations where it's just like he kind of exhausted all his options, and so he's like, Bitcoin makes the most sense. So again, I think it's a brilliant leadership move.
I think when
You're
a
just so
company
boss.
like AT&T buys into Bitcoin, that'll be like the huge explosion, because AT&T is basically provides a lot of the backbone infrastructure to the internet itself. And so once people see a company like AT&T buy Bitcoin, that'll make the price explode, man. And so
I agree.
It's great that a lot of these companies are kind of entering into Bitcoin, and they're publicly disclosing their value and this kind of stuff. But when some of these, you mentioned like older companies, like one of my analogies is buying Bitcoin is like buying AT&T in the early 80s, like 1983, when they're first like forming from like South, or Bell Telephone and Telegraph and this kind of stuff. And so eventually these people are going to see the opportunity that Bitcoin is offering, like a parallel, network to the existing internet. And like these kind of ideas, once they catch hold, like that's when the price is going to be, outrageous. So,
And I think beyond even buying it, Randy, is building for it, right? So I have a lot of I have a pretty big network in the upstream energy industry, and let me tell you, the news that I heard last night, I'm on 2 hours of sleep because I couldn't sleep. I had to write about it. What some upstream energy, not only producers but power providers are committing to, and soon to be announced, is would absolutely blow your hair back. And I'm not talking about buying Bitcoin. I'm talking about building things for Bitcoin. Things like $50 million assets that help support Bitcoin. So that kind of commitment from these legacy energy companies, which they move so slow. They never rush into a decision. This is something they must have been sitting on and thinking on for a long time. they're pulling the trigger soon, and it's going to be industry shaking.
And this ties into the other idea of like MicroStrategy pivoting. Is GE, for instance, obviously they're Edison Electric and this kind of stuff way back when, but they've pivoted into all kinds of, markets, from televisions to appliances and all kinds of stuff. So it's completely reasonable that, some of these companies are going to pivot into other markets, and they see, Bitcoin as a big power play as far as, having the quote unquote money to like do it. So I'm excited. I suspect, companies like GE and, like I mentioned, AT&T are really looking at this as part of the backbone of the new internet. So I'm excited.
They probably are.
Can I jump in? I just want to piggyback on that and say, where's leadership from our server manufacturers? Why aren't they getting on the ASIC train? Like Dell and HP and IBM, like spin up a business unit dedicated towards ASIC production. Let's bring it stateside. I mean, both of these companies and a bunch of others.
Preach.
Well, I'm just saying, like all these companies, they have experience in building like pod compute units, which are in those shipping containers already. They have expertise in this domain. And I think it would be an easy transition to modify and ship, pods for Bitcoin. So
I wouldn't be surprised. It's really capital intensive, so that might be, probably maybe the reservation, right?
Yeah, but they have R&D units. All these companies do. Like they could like absolutely build up an ASIC development very inexpensively.
I would say ARM.
Honestly, the U.S. is going to be the last of the countries that get on that bandwagon, and I think this kind of transitions into like the next topic, which I think might be the next topic.
Well, I don't know.
Like,
why do you think
Iran a little bit?
Yeah, why do you think we'd be the last? I mean, I find that
because just look how hesitant Jerome Powell was considering CBDCs.
Fuck Jerome Powell. The
yes,
government's
fuck
always
Jerome
going to be
Powell.
slow. That's the beautiful thing about America is we are market-based. We're market-based.
But I mean, they just got an 8-0 vote on giving a bank charter for the first CBDC through Avanti. So I mean,
really? Awesome.
We already have 3 CBDCs. There's several of them. There's GUSD, there's USDC, there is TUSD, and then we have Euro.
Wait. Okay, so this is like Tether and Coinbase USD.
So Tether is tokenized $0. The other things are, in my opinion, are FedCoin. Like the market has already delivered FedCoin. The market is always going to.
I know, but they want to adopt that, will they? Because the Federal Reserve is not in.
Look, if you look at Tether printing and USDC printing, like it's getting to be like medium-sized bank status. Like there is a lot of value that is held in these assets, and I mean it's not a joke. So
with the standpoint though, we were talking about ASIC.
Do you not see like the Fed swooping in like they did at Coinbase and try to take that over? Because even if they did, hey, as long as Tether is still like this bearer asset that individuals can custody without being like blocking their transactions, that would be awesome.
Hey Phil.
Yeah.
Phil, we were talking about ASIC production, so I don't know why Jerome Powell would matter.
We're talking about American manufacturers.
So, hey, let's
pick. We were talking about manufacturing ASICs in the United States. You said they'd be the last to do it, and then you brought up Jerome Powell, and I have no idea what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, just because how like behind the U.S. is on like Bitcoin in comparison to like other countries.
What are you talking about?
Other countries are going to need it more.
Look, the U.S. as an entity is a piece of shit institution, right? But as a population, we are buying Bitcoin in droves. We're probably one of the most bullish populations on Bitcoin and talk about the most out of any population on Earth. So I just, I just want to reframe these things. But talking about another population that apparently is seeing the orange side, the Iranian population, a population that has been on the bad side of the U.S.'s, control of the financial system. There is news leaking. There's news that's coming out today about them, having very specific rules about miners having to sell coins directly to the central bank, and that international commerce needs to be in Bitcoin. That comes as a shocker to me.
That's because of energy.
Yeah,
Iran's got energy.
Iran's got energy, and
Bitcoin's
just
a
that.
demand market.
It sounds like Denver Bitcoin has some opinions on here. Phil, let's let Denver jump in, and then let's
go, man. Bring it, Denver.
Dude, I mean, it's just an energy play, right? I mean, Bitcoin mining is an energy demand market, right? It's an emerging energy demand market. So, Iran can essentially bypass any other state and bring the energy that it has. It's the only resource that it really has to earn anything. The government's only resource to grow GDP. It can bypass all shipping and OPEC and everything. It can just bring that energy straight to market through mining Bitcoin. They're going to do it, right? I mean, they're going to try to be their own sovereign energy production country without having to tell anybody or getting told by the United States what they can sell their oil for or how much they can sell. So it's natural. It'll make the United States hate Bitcoin, but here we go. I mean, this is the forces.
On that point,
the United States government.
Like on that point, I mean, Iran has been arguably the boogeyman of the United States for the past century. I mean, going back to like when Teddy Roosevelt FOMO'd and wanted to follow like British Petroleum's protocol of like trying to get Iran's oil and everything. So, and then him trying to have a coup in Iran and everything between the U.S. and Iran has kind of been like a shit show ever since. So it's going to be very interesting, like on a foreign policy and geopolitical stance. But I mean, Iran doing this, it's kind of no surprise really because of how heavily sanctioned they have been. And even in the summer of 2019, they were trying to implement this counter economic global system against the SWIFT system. I think it was called Instex. Don't quote me on the, whatever that stands for. But Ryan McMankin wrote a lot of great stuff on this around that time at the 10th Amendment Center, if y'all want to check that out. But this really only makes sense because this is kind of what Bitcoin was born to do. It was born to create this counter economic system against its dollar hegemony because America really picks and chooses who its allies are going to be. And when you use the dollar as a weapon.
Sorry to cut you off here, Phil. So I want to go to Crypto Cloaks. I haven't heard his opinion in a minute here, and I'm dying to hear it. Let's go, Crypto. You're muted.
All right, there we go. Fixed it. I mean, I think they're just trying to fuck over the U.S. I mean, I would. They have all the energy, and what does the U.S. want? Well, they want energy, and they have to buy it from Iran usually. So what are they going to do? Well, they're going to be like, screw it. We're going to run it ourselves, and they're going to do their own thing. I think Bitcoin is their option to actually do it. So that's why they're probably going to go full bore right into it. I think that's what Bitcoin's meant to do.
I mean, U.S. energy is sovereign now, so that's less of a factor, but still they're still in.
Let's go to Yang. Right, I want to hear from Yang and then Richard, and then after that, let's go to Randy. Sorry, I'm trying to control the combo here.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure I fully understand like what the news is saying. I took a quick look into like import financing, and basically it sounds like there are sanctions on Iran, and one of the problems with importing goods is that you've got to get that money. There's like a gap, a period, and so you got to get money from someone else to fund the imports to bring to Iran or something to that effect. And it sounds like because there's sanctions in Iran, nobody with U.S. dollars is willing to loan their money, to loan their finances to the import business in Iran. And so it sounds like instead of that, the Iran government is allowing Bitcoin miners in Iran to basically hold Bitcoin as collateral to finance some of this stuff for the importing business. So that is kind of crazy to me because the sanctions is absolutely a political play. And the fact that, you know how we say like, oh, buy Bitcoin, make a vote, like vote by purchasing Bitcoin. Like that's literally the play here that Iran is saying is like, look, you can put sanctions on us and on our industry and try to fuck us over, but man, let's just circumvent all this because we have Bitcoin now. And so we're going to take Bitcoin, we're going to finance this importing business now, and we're just going to keep on trucking. That's like a powerful move that like kind of disempowers like, I think like government political pressure that they can place on other countries. And that's if I'm understanding the news article correctly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had the same thing where you're reading this news and you're trying to kind of decipher exactly what's going on. What I find interesting is like the way and this is almost like a template for how other countries might do this, is like the way the government is dealing with the Bitcoin mining industry. And it looks to me like you've pretty much seen a nationalization of the whole Bitcoin mining industry in Iran. And so as in like, first, they've put it's highly regulated as to, how much electricity you can use, what price you get your electricity, because the citizens of Iran get this hugely subsidized electricity, and that's why it's basically free. And then but there's a different rate for Bitcoin mining. And my understanding of what I just read was that if you're a Bitcoin miner in Iran, you need a license, you've got a quota of how much you can mine, and you've got to sell your Bitcoin to the Iranian government at a certain price. So someone might correct me on this or add detail to this, but like my understanding is that it's the government, whether that's the central bank or whatever, is accumulating the Bitcoin. And I think they're compensating the miners in Iranian currency. Like I don't know. Like obviously, if you're a miner, that's not good.
This is definitely not good for Iranians.
If I can jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Denver.
I
Can
know
you give us
that,
your take?
I know that I don't know how. Yeah, so I don't know how Iran is necessary. I agree that they're essentially trying to nationalize the mining industry, right? But I do know that I remember reading about Venezuela nationalizing their pool, right? So the way that they were going to essentially get their piece of any kind of energy within their country going to market via Bitcoin mining was they demand that any miner goes through the Venezuelan mining pool, right? And so then essentially they're in control of your hash rate, and they'll clip as much of whatever percent as they want, because if you want to mine, you have to do it through them. So that would be something that maybe they chokehold through the internet service providers down there, right? So they nobody can go to Slush Pool or whatever else. They can only go to the Venezuelan. So maybe Iran is going to do similar. Maybe they'll do it more so just by controlling the energy distribution. But I know that Venezuela is in the midst of doing the same nationalization, so worth looking at as well.
Here's the way I see it. I think that Iran being public about this is a huge deal, obviously because it's like centrally located in the region. But I think the biggest deal here is that it means that Russia is heavy in Bitcoin, because Iran is one of the countries that Russian oil passes through. And so all these countries that allow Russian oil to pass through them to get to their ports, to Iranian ports, they're all going to, I suspect, be compensated in Bitcoin in some way or another. And so I suspect this is just like the first of many countries in that region that will come out and actually say that they have Bitcoin holdings, if for no other reason, because it back to just the basic Bitcoin use case. It's just going to minimize like friction in the region. I mean, the fact that region is basically going to unify as like a regional currency of Bitcoin is a big deal. I suspect what it's really saying is that, even Saudi Arabia is looking closely at Bitcoin. I think Russia is already heavy in Bitcoin, and I suspect some of as this like energy thing, progresses, I suspect we're going to see some huge like price increases as these countries have to buy in or hold Bitcoin because they're being compensated because of the pipelines and this kind of stuff. It's a big deal. I mean, think about it. I was talking to somebody else about this, and they can the fact that their accounts can be settled in 10 minutes and they're selling crude oil to wherever, that's a big deal. So
let me jump in here real quick, Randy. So I put out a tweet like 6 months ago saying, and it got some attention from Bitcoiners. People were talking shit about it. People were retweeting it. But I said that in the next 5 years, or sorry, no, I said in this decade, I think I said it at the end of 2019, but I said in this upcoming decade, we will see energy contracts denominated in Bitcoin. And never could I have imagined that it would literally happen in the next 6 months. So I mean, this is huge. But
here's just
yeah, go for it.
One more point on this. Like, what really concerns me though is that, you know, obviously Bitcoin has been discussed in the halls of government when it comes to like national security. I guarantee you that Bitcoin is being discussed as a national security issue right now as we speak. The fact that Iran came out publicly, it's like,
so
it's gonna get serious.
So with that note, I want to jump over to George because again, like, you know, George, maybe you have some more insight here just because of, you know, where you sit, but Middle Eastern vibes, national security vibes, like, what are your takes here?
Yeah, so I'm Egyptian, and I've been trying to find different pathways to bring Bitcoin to as many Egyptians as possible. And that's come in various forms, but I have one partner there, and we're basically trying to create a market. There's no regulated Bitcoin exchange in Egypt, and there's no clarity around regulation. So the way it works there is they've outlawed Bitcoin mining. So it's super interesting because they've specifically outlawed ASICs. GPU mining, they're fine with, right? Because that'll be a lot harder to control, but you can't bring an ASIC into the country. That's illegal. So they've sort of cut it off there. Yeah, so it's not illegal technically or explicitly to trade Bitcoin or, you know, buy and sell it, transact it, but mining is where they've sort of drawn the line. So I think with the Iran news,
scared though. I have connections in Egypt too, and they're just not open to it right now still, but they love gold, which is weird.
When you say people, you mean the regular people or government officials, CK?
Like the narrative on the street is like, what is this weird thing?
Right.
So regular people, just okay.
Regular people are very, very scared of it.
Regular educated people.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, I think the whole, I mean, this is kind of what we've been waiting for as Bitcoiners, for another country and adversary, if nothing else, to sort of emerge as a player. And like, how does this game theory play out? You know, and I think it'll have an impact regionally. I think Egypt, Saudi Arabia, like all the big players in the Middle East will be like, okay, what does this mean for us? So I love the fact that the Iran news specifically is around mining. I agree with CK. It's probably not good for locals, the way that they're trying to basically control it. So it's almost like they're still early, like they have gotten woke to it, and they're like, oh shit, we better get this under control before the people like become too powerful. So that's one aspect of the game theory. I think another one is that you have a government that's been sanctioned or been sort of demonized by world powers, realize the potential of Bitcoin and sort of take a more benevolent approach to it and empower their people to be like, hey, this is going to be great for us. Let's take a more abundant approach. I know some countries like have been more Bitcoin friendly, but it would be really interesting to see a country in the Middle East, I think, that's more traditionally seen as the enemy or adversarial or whatever, take that approach. And I think I'm hopeful personally as a Egyptian American that Egypt might take that position. So yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. But I love that it's an energy play primarily from Iran.
Yeah,
I think
you blew my hair back by saying that you can't bring an ASIC into the country. I mean, that is an astounding fact, in my opinion. That's
very specific.
I never would have thought. I mean, it's
sad.
It's
sad.
It's just an integrated circuit, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. It's just a chip.
It's so weird. Yeah.
I think Egypt will be pulled into Bitcoin because of the region, and a lot of countries will eventually want to pay their like canal fees, like the Suez Canal and this kind of stuff in Bitcoin because they're already transacting in it. And so I suspect that'll be the entry for Egypt publicly, because they'll be receiving Bitcoin through like Suez Canal passage and this kind of stuff. So I think that's possible.
Yep. I hope they see the potential in attracting people like to come live there. I mean, Egypt's a great place to just be. So if they take more of
The
like
geography is fantastic.
Yeah, like if they take a Singapore, Malta type approach to, hey, maybe this could be something that we attract people with. I would love to see something like that. Tourism's obviously
they're missing a huge opportunity, I think.
So I am Egyptian, so this is why I'm chipping in with like opinions here. But does anyone else have an opinion on this topic, or should we jump to the next topic?
My last thing would be any country that has rich hydrocarbons. This narrative is just going to keep repeating itself. So.
Yeah, and I mean, just because it's Iran, I mean, like I said, it's been the boogeyman for the U.S. for decades, arguably a century. And I really hope it doesn't turn into a hot war and it just becomes a global hash war. And that would be like the bullish thing for Bitcoin.
You bring up a good point. Bitcoin enables just an ever-long Cold War. It's just a hash war. You just continue hashing, try to get the most Bitcoins, and that's a Cold War, and that's a lot less painful as far as I'm concerned. All right, our next topic, guys. Okay, go for it.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Hold on. I
like
one thing.
Just to finish off, I gotta
say one thing.
If it remains a hash war, then it really solidifies the sovereign individual thesis of there's no return on violence. There's just return on like the cyber warfare of who has the most hash power.
It's inevitable.
And that's what I would like to see. It would be a goddamn fucking bloodbath if we went to war with Iran. It's like Tusken Raider on steroids, like Tatooine.
All right,
like
Joe.
territory.
Joe. I agree with Phil. I think that I'm very sympathetic to what Phil's saying. But I think the game theory for us as American Bitcoiners is our government, the Brad Shermans out there, the Brad Sherman army shitting on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, whatever you want to say. They're going to use this against us. And we haven't seen the American state even begin to start fighting Bitcoin. But I would anticipate that this is another notch on the belt that they will be using. And we're just getting started. So huddle on.
You know what? That might happen, but I'm going to push back and say that they are losers on the losing side that is losing money and has no growth, and Bitcoin is growing. And if you jump on the train like MicroStrategy, you might win. And speaking about jumping on that train, our next subject is Bitcoin banking. Yesterday, Avanti Bank, led by Caitlin Long, who is a pioneer in Bitcoin forward legislation, she passed very good legislation for Bitcoin and then immediately started a Bitcoin company, which is classic. But still, as a Bitcoiner, you got to support it. They launched. They officially have their full 100% charter. They have not necessarily announced a corn BTC related product. They have only announced a new Fed coin, a new regulated stable coin. But with that being said, and now we have two full-born American bank entities, Kraken and Avanti Bank. More to come. I mean, I guess technically Square and PayPal are both full-born banks, like in a more traditional manner, like not even just this Wisconsin loophole. And they are both obviously dealing in Bitcoin. Banks dealing in Bitcoin are a thing. Like they're happening with mainstream banks, like opposed to the narrative of America even fighting this. Like there are a lot of interest in servicing Bitcoin, in making money off of Bitcoin. Square's making a ton of money off of Bitcoin. So I've been rambling on way too much. I want to jump straight to Joe, and then we'll see how this conversation flows. But what's your take on Bitcoin banking, people getting in on the Bitcoin gold rush?
Well, I mean, like the announcement today, like wasn't explicitly Bitcoin. But I mean, like as a Bitcoiner, this is laying the foundation for Bitcoin being institutionalized. And I like to give a shout out to our friend Bitcoin Tina. He joined Al's Lacrosse Dirtbag Friday a couple of weeks ago. And there were some heated exchanges on there. But Bitcoin Tina, one of the things that he was making the case for is that, like, you know, as Bitcoiners, we have this rebellious fuck you attitude. But on, you know, and Bitcoin 10 is one of the most vocal, like, fuck you attitude people out there. But at the same time, the big point he was making that is that if you want adoption in the US, and if you want number go up, and if you want this thing to go to moon, then we need to roll up our sleeves and play within the guidelines and get legitimate here in the States. So my overall opinion and view has a bit shifted. I was on that camp of like anarchist, and I still am, but I think that this overall is really great for Bitcoin. And I think that it's just getting started. I mean, between Kraken and Avanti, this is a very good thing. And it just legitimizes Bitcoin. I think you'll see more institutional investors. I mean, you see Paul Tudor Jones, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we're going to just keep seeing people pile in as news like this goes live. But Denver, you got any thing to say, buddy?
Yeah, I got to get out of here in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'll say for just like my kind of farewell. Sorry, guys, I didn't know how long we'd be going tonight, but I have a dinner that I got to go eat. So, but I'd say that, you know, a lot of people are keeping their eyes on the financial industry, the corporate treasury officers that might be allocating cash into Bitcoin. I personally keep my eyes on the energy industry, much like our last conversation. I think there's really some earth-shattering stuff to come in the energy realm. So keep an eye out for it. Look to see how that develops, because that's soon to come. And then the climate alarmists are on the horizon after that. So thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. Thanks so much, CK, Joe.
Denver,
take care, and
hey,
I hope to
good to meet you, Denver.
Before you leave,
Hey man, I'm sorry I
wait,
ate in front of your
Phil.
face. My apologies.
Phil, I'm sorry.
I'm done talking.
Denver, before you leave, our next subject is about the 14% difficulty adjustment. Since you are a miner, before you leave us, why don't you give your 2 cents on the downward difficulty adjustment that is expected?
Oh man, I pop a bottle of champagne every time the difficulty goes down, because it never ever happens anymore. But you know, the way that I approached the mining business was I put all the money up front to get the infrastructure in place to solve a problem, right? To solve a waste gas problem. So, you know, our energy costs are pretty much as low as they can get. And I don't even think about, you know, the price of that anymore. I just think this is, you know, I'm constantly buying Bitcoin every day. And if the difficulty goes down, I mean, I'll buy a bottle of champagne. It's fantastic, right? It's those are the great moments in life, I guess.
All right, cheers, man. Thank you for joining, and let's go to Phil next on Bitcoin Banking. Phil, sorry for rudely interrupting you, sir.
No, sorry for being really obnoxious during the stream, but thanks for having me anyway. And I'm sorry for Denver for eating in front of his face, but hey, man, guys got to eat, you know?
Never apologize for eating.
Yeah.
Bullish on eating.
Bullish on eating. All right, so Bitcoin banking. I don't know. Really, it all kind of boils down to what the fuck we're here about in the first place. If you understand Bitcoin, you understand the importance of custodying your keys. Now, this will be a great on-ramp and a good way to just kind of ease into the normies and understanding what Bitcoin is. I would definitely prefer Avanti and Kraken Bank over fucking PayPal, of course. I trust those guys more than that, you know, shit show, whatever the hell happens in that scenario. So it's very cool. You know, having a speedy charter is very advantageous. But something I've recently been trying to battle with my brain is that, yes, speedy basically means, you know, you're running a crypto, the real C word, crypto, a full reserve Bitcoin / crypto bank. But then again, you got a window to the Fed. So you're not FDIC insured, but like, what does that window to the Fed really enable you to do as a crypto bank? So I'm ignorant. I haven't looked into much research on this myself. I don't really know the answers to this question. But overall, again, it's super cool. I mean, Wyoming is kind of literally like the Wild West. Like, you think of Wyoming, you think of cowboys and Indians and all this, like, just wild shit. You know, that's where the LLC started.
We dream of citadels there.
Yeah, awesome. Also Texas, because we are the coolest shaped state in the fucking United States of America.
Good shape.
So who wants to build off of Phil's question here? Like, what does this mean? Like, what does being a bank mean?
I
In the Fed
wouldn't mind
window.
asking that question. Like, obviously, I see this news rolling out about Bitcoin banks. I think, to Joe's point and what Bitcoin team was saying, like, I think the future, like a hyper Bitcoinized world, for better or worse, I don't think it's one where like everyone's holding their own keys. I just think that is beyond most people. So I think this institutionalized form is probably the future. But I guess my question is, which is building on Phil's question, like what are they like? What is this Bitcoin like? Bank, what is a Bitcoin bank besides a custodian of your Bitcoin? And like, what does it mean for me? Like, if I'm just someone off the street in Wyoming, I open an account with a Vanti bank. Does it just mean that like I log into some online portal and I can see an account denominated in Bitcoin? And like, what happens then? Can I withdraw it? Like, I'm interested
I see
in
Andrew
what it
nodding
means
here.
to be a bank.
I see Andrew nodding. Phil, you posed a question recently, so let's pass it to someone else. Andrew, I see you nodding. Do you have an opinion here? Do you have any answers?
I don't have any answers, but I mean, like, it from my perspective, it's probably just it'll look like a Coinbase.com, right? You have accounts, you can hold USD, you can hold crypto. Like to me, the concept of the Bitcoin bank gives me a lot of security, man. Because like, if you think about the space and where we were maybe like 2-3 years ago, there was a lot of discussion of like, is Bitcoin regulated? Will Bitcoin get banned? China banned Bitcoin, right? But as soon as you have this moment where it's like, oh no, we're authorizing banks to custody Bitcoin, that's huge because that completely removes off the table this idea of regulatory uncertainty around Bitcoin as an asset class, right? And so this year has been a super bullish year in terms of like legitimizing Bitcoin as like a super safe investable product or an asset, especially with MicroStrategy. And you see like the inflows of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Like there's been an incredible amount of inflows there. And you have like this news with Bitcoin banks that Kraken is authorized to be a Bitcoin bank. You have Avanti Bank. And so it just, to me, makes me more bullish than ever in terms of like the long-term security of Bitcoin in the Western world.
All right, wait. So let's go to Cloaks, and then after that, we're gonna go to Phil. Cloaks, give us your shtick, and then then we're gonna go to George last. So Cloaks, Phil, George.
Well, I'm just reading the YouTube chats, and they're saying that Henry's talking about the future's total chain analysis by massive centralized custodians. And you think about it, if that's actually a really good point. Like if all these huge banks are creating on-ramps for Bitcoin, they can track everything, right? So they know where everything's going. Is that a huge factor for chain analysis? I mean, everybody's screwed.
All right,
if they go through those systems.
Phil, do you have answers? Everyone has presented more questions. I hope you have answers here, Phil.
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, you look at companies like Jack Mauer's family trying to run they're selling marijuana and they're unbanked. But Jack Mauer's presents Strike. And what does that enable? They can accept payment in Bitcoin. Well, I mean, where are they going to store that Bitcoin? People that aren't Bitcoiners like us, like, I don't know how like super like Bitcoin-esque Jack's family is. Maybe they run a node in the house. Who fucking knows? But someone like Avanti Capital and Kraken Bank, this is a great outlet for companies like this who are running quasi illicit but also kind of sort of legal depending on what state you're in, like a marijuana business. I mean, that's been the biggest issue, is that these people cannot properly manage the capital in these sort of businesses. So I think that might open up an opportunity, these sort of banks doing with Bitcoin, accepting Bitcoin. So I can see that as a bright side. I can't really think of any other use case, and I might be totally
honestly
wrong, but I think that opens up.
Let me just throw some clarification. I feel like really the use case for these type of banks is very much institutional, and it's very much because they are full reserve. So I guess that makes for a good, maybe the stablecoin use case is a very good use case there because they have to be full reserve. Let's jump over to George. Like, what are your thoughts in this case?
That's George, baby. Come on.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite topics, actually. So
let's go then.
I used to work at Wells Fargo Home Mortgage for a while. I'm in the mortgage business by day now. And so when I think about Richard's question, what does this do for me? I think about just the very practical where is this all headed, right? So as Bitcoiners, we kind of understand that a lot of us are about to be very wealthy over the next several decades, right? And what happens? What happens next? Well, like the whispers are, we're probably all going to want to buy some land, maybe some real estate, and so what Avanti's doing,
My only real estate's Bitcoin.
What Caitlin is doing, I think, is leading in a very important part of laying down infrastructure for just like the very practical use case of how, what are we going to do when I want to buy my 40 acres in Wyoming or whatever, where am I going to go? I don't want to spend my Bitcoin, right? I want a sort of Unchained Capital BlockFi type product that is going to get me into that 40 acres without actually having to relinquish my Bitcoin. And I think so. So my mind immediately goes to real estate, mortgage, collateralized loans in that sense. And it's not like they're not offering that right now. They're offering institutional products like CK mentioned, but I think it's the starting point for these very practical tools that Bitcoiners are going to need. We have to start thinking about this. Like we talk about citadels all day long, but we don't actually have a land strategy. We don't have a path to get there, right? Because we're all talking about hodl. Okay, cool. Well, how are you going to get your citadel if you're just hodling? Well, hopefully institutions like Avanti can provide products that are thinking about Bitcoin in the new world, right? So we're still in this transition. We're in this phase where Bitcoin is eating the world. It's eating all of the value. But until we kind of fully realize that it becomes a medium of exchange for real, we have to have some sort of bridge, right? We have to find some sort of way where we can actually acquire land. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's kind of the big picture that I see. But yeah, in the meantime, it's going to be a bank for people like MicroStrategy to put their Bitcoin. So
let's hop over to Randy.
Collateral.
Here's a couple thoughts. If they want to buy their own Bitcoin as a bank, then awesome. But unless they're going to pay my ass a nice interest rate, why would I ever put my Bitcoin into this bank? It's like, and to me, unless they're paying me interest, I don't give a shit what they're doing. But to the other point is, yes, I agree. Like, it's very important that some of this framework gets hammered out, because that's the only way, like, Caitlin Long, she seems well-intentioned, and that's great. I would rather her or, well-intentioned people try to hammer this stuff out, like, instead of JP Morgan, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, I'm on board with, I like the ideal that somebody that's, reasonable and seems, well-intentioned try to hammer this stuff out, basically, where kind of low profile, because the precedent that is going to be set will reverberate when some of these like larger banks and institutions like get into this kind of stuff, and so I think that that's a good thing, is that there's going to be some precedent and that will influence like some of these larger institutions and some kind of larger legal framework. So I think that's
just to kind of jump in here, like just to kind of add some color, like absolutely. And the thing is, Randy, is you are a Bitcoiner, and there's a lot of not Bitcoiners that are going to be interested in Bitcoin, interested in stable coins, interested in crypto, and there's absolutely a market for it. And as much as Bitcoiners hate to say it, BlockFi has a huge market opportunity. They have a huge TAM. So there's a massive amount of people that want that service. So that's just a reality. So it's just going to be a thing that we're going to deal with. And I'm actually curious, Andrew, because you're at Casa now, you've been at River, you've seen what bigger players care about. Do you think that they're going to custody? What do they care about?
Yeah, like, honestly, like the Bitcoin banks, they're not for your cypherpunk Bitcoiners. Like, they're not. And people can whine and complain about, oh, you got to self-custody your Bitcoin. Like, I understand, like, that's the principle. But if you want Bitcoin to become mainstream, if you want Bitcoin number to go up, you want Bitcoin banks, flat out. Just because institutional investors and like Caitlin Long has talked about it before, about like family funds, they're not going to self-custody their Bitcoin. They're just not. That's not their MO. they're used to having wealth managers. They're used to having like joint accounts. They're used to, letting someone else take care of the money because it's so much, right? That's the kind of money that they're dealing with. And so the fact that Bitcoin banks are coming, I think is just an incredibly bullish sign. And it's a signal for like the kind of wealth transfer that's going to flow hopefully into Bitcoin.
That's us.
Hey, just one last point on that. I didn't mean to like sound negative on banks, but my main point is think about this. Like banks are going to have to compete with the Bitcoin network itself. And as far as back to my point is they're going to have to pay like a good interest rate for somebody to, why would you, if a user has the option of self-custody, they're going to have to be incentivized to actually store some Bitcoin in some kind of bank. And so I'm interested in the interest rates that they're going to like come to, because that's the thing, that's the price of money is interest. And so that's going to be the price of Bitcoin for like allowing a bank to like custody it and leverage it in some other way. And so they're going to have to pay for it. So that was,
I guess that's where the Fed window comes in, right?
Well, okay, look. Yeah, okay, so dude, I completely agree with you. I just went to my bank like a month ago, and they're dying. Like banks are dying. People are not keeping cash in the banks, and it's because the interest rates
Not only that, they're not lending either.
The interest rates that they're getting on their savings account it's piss poor, right? But when you start thinking about like lending services that exist right now, especially centralized ones like BlockFi, they're offering up like what 10% on USDC, like 6% on Bitcoin. I mean, come on, right? Money would flow into those banks if they became a quote unquote Bitcoin bank. And so I think you're totally right. Like if banks, if they saw this opportunity and the market that was available to them, if they integrated like interest bearing accounts for crypto, come on, they'd save themselves.
Can I
Cloaks.
jump in?
Sorry, Richard.
Oh, sorry.
No, absolutely, you.
Yeah, the point about interest is like, so if I'm a client of this, say I don't want to hold my own keys, which is fair enough, and I want to deposit my Bitcoin, I want to own Bitcoin through a bank. Well, either I have if this is a fully reserved situation, then I can't by definition earn any interest because the bank's got to be holding. Like if it's a full reserve bank, the bank should be able to prove to me that my Bitcoin is just sitting there. If I want an interest rate, then I have to then be willing to understand that the only way I can earn interest is if the bank loans my Bitcoin out to some kind of business enterprise or what have you, and that entails by definition a risk to my capital. So that's, I guess, what I want to. And that's fine. Like that should be up to the individual to make that distinction. I guess my worry is that in the current legacy system, you've seen that common sense distinction totally break down because of this fractional reserve situation where like people expect. I know the interest rate on a savings account is next to nothing, but people expect an interest rate and the ability to access their money at the same time. So my worry is, and my question is like, okay, I think I trust someone like Avanti and Caitlin, and this is a full reserve setup, but like, what's to stop this new banking model going down the path of just becoming another fractional reserve system? And is it only like the the clients
to jump in there? At least by law, the way that this charter is set up, that it must be full reserve. So unless the law gets changed in Wyoming, that's actually the nature of how this has been set up. And I would say that several Bitcoiners that Phil and many of us know from Austin, Will Cole, Parker Lewis, that crew have actually been very intimately involved in crafting that law. And, I personally have not read it. So, obviously don't trust, verify. You should read it yourself. But I have a certain amount of trust in those individuals that if they're recommending the way that's been written, that it's actually been kind of crafted by hardcore Bitcoiners, which is awesome.
Right. So like full reserve bank, I think is just the first step, right? At some point, sometime in the future, it's going to probably go to fractional reserve. But I just want to make the point that fractional reserve banking isn't bad, right? I mean, it's just a tool and it helps grow the economy, but it can be used in a poor way. And that's what we're seeing.
It works until it doesn't. We know that.
Right. But I'm just saying that like fractional reserve banking in of itself isn't terrible. It's not evil.
Right.
So
until it's not.
I tend to agree with that, but I'm just saying that that's the way that this law has been set up. I tend to agree that if as long as the banks can fail, fractional reserve is something that they can, it's like going on margin. It's like a risk thing that you adjust for.
Correct.
I guess the question is, do we need it? Like, do we need fractional reserve banking in a post Bitcoin world?
And here's a beautiful thought, like, in a world where everything has to be about ownership and equity in building, like, what does that do for society? Like, I think that is a much more beautiful thing to think about. And I haven't heard from Cloaks in a while, so I do want to hear from Cloaks.
Yeah, I'm just listening. This is awesome.
I'm sorry. Have you been thinking about like what are the second, third order effects of Bitcoin?
I mean, I'm just soaking this all up. This is awesome to be here. You guys are all talking about crazy shit. I just 3D print some awesome stuff.
I just work here.
What are the second and third order effects of 3D printing?
The 3D printing, we changed the entire world. Everybody's going to have one in their houses. You can 3D print anything you want. Don't even worry about it.
Obsolete China is your supply chain?
Yeah, exactly. All bringing jobs back to the U.S. Might as well start there, right? That's my campaign slogan. No, seriously,
I support that message.
I don't know.
Hey, let me throw this in there. Like, I really think a lot of this stuff was going to be taken more serious when Bitcoin sustains 100,000.
Oh, dude, just give it 6 months, man.
Okay, so think about it this way, though, right? Just look. Okay, so say there's some bank that's offering like 6%, right? And at that point, at 100,000, once that's sustained, I would be like interested in saying, loaning them like 0.1 or 0.1 or like 0.2 Bitcoin at like 6%.
When that number goes up,
that's a nice little monthly income right there. You know what and so I think it would be really cool if there was some kind of situation where you get paid interest in Bitcoin and then you can just skim the interest into some other account. So you're not, that would be awesome.
And like DLCs are going to make all this possible too. I mean, the permissionlessness of DLCs and being able to do whatever the fuck you want with your Bitcoin, and whether it's loaning or whatever contract. I mean, like the power is going to come back to us. Like there's so many opportunities.
No, but
right, go ahead.
That's the dream. Is to eventually at some point just live off of their interest off of my Bitcoin. Like honestly, like that's what I hope.
Yeah,
will be in like 5-10 years.
Yeah, like before it becomes global money, that's what it's going to be. Hedging against an asset that is only going to appreciate in value. Fuck whatever interest rates are going to give you. And depending on fiat U.S. inflation, you're depending on the quote unquote inflation, a number go up in Bitcoin. So that way you can survive in the shitty fiat world for as long as it lasts, but you still own your Bitcoin.
Do you guys really think 5 to 10 years, or is it going to take longer than that, like regular systems? I mean, I think we all hope for 5 to 10.
We're seeing energy contracts in 2020, so I don't think it's going to take that long. I want to pose a question to the group. What is the true cost of money? If 21 million is the true metric system for value for all of the world's energy, all of the world's capital, what is the cost for money? What's the appropriate interest rate that we can expect on our Bitcoin? Have you guys even thought about that?
Didn't Hal calculate this?
Okay, we're plebs. Like, I'm gonna go the Hayek route. We don't fucking know. We're not there yet. We don't have the information. That's for the market to decide. So right now it's priceless. So until that day comes, it's up to the market. But then that's also up to individuals to decide that Bitcoin is the answer.
More than 6%.
That's actually a really good thing to say, because it's priceless. It really is. Like, how can you say, oh, I only want 6% on mine? well, I want fucking 25% or 100%.
I want 100%.
Like, it's fucking Bitcoin. Like,
How do you
want
how
as
do you
much as
insure
physically
Bitcoin?
possible on that shit.
How do you even insure it?
So from a bull perspective, I want to get
exactly.
Hey, let's not just say it's infinite, it's priceless, because that's not entertaining to me. I wanna know, like, from a like, let's just say you're a mega bull. Like, what is the price of money? Yeah, let's go to you, Richard.
Well, yeah, so like to lend out your Bitcoin, like the interest you expect on it.
No, you're not
Richard.
Richard, sir.
So there's two different things at play here. The first is that Bitcoin obviously still has upside in its value as it becomes adopted as a as a medium of exchange or as a store of value around the world. So and who knows what a hyper Bitcoinized world, what's the price of Bitcoin? Is it $1 million a coin? Is it 10 million? I mean, at that point, fiat money stops being a good measurement. So let's fast forward and assume that everyone is using Bitcoin as their unit of account. Well,
bullish on cloaks.
That I mean, in that situation, it literally is like the value of the entire world divided by 21 million. But in terms of the interest, like CK is asking, what's the natural interest rate? Well, at that point, I was thinking about this myself the other day, and I can see two things. I'm interested in what anyone else thinks, but it's the increase in so it's obviously it's a deflationary money, so it's gonna increase in value just by sitting there, and that is going to be based on the increase in the population and the increase in productivity per person. So those two natural things are what's going to cause the appreciation of Bitcoin once its monetary premium is kind of finished. So I see and then I guess the natural interest rate that is kind of going to depend on. I think I see that as being like what is the same as productivity. Like what is if you're lending because we know that in an economy you've got it's in a constant state of flux. So you've got some industries that are earning high profits and some that are earning low profits, and then so naturally you'll see people and resources gravitate towards those industries where the profits are higher, and you'll see this leveling out to the point where you do get a sort of a natural interest rate. And I think that it's probably much higher than we're all used to, because I don't think we've really understood what having a real undebaseable unit of account like Bitcoin. I think that unleashes a lot of productivity. I just think because we don't have anything to compare it to, we get lulled into this sense. Like I just think the current model of central banking and kind of government bureaucracy run economies is such a waste of capital that I think it's almost unimaginable how productive we could be if the free market was just allowed to do its thing with the absolute minimum state intervention.
I was going to say, I agree completely. We can't look at it like the old banking system, because Bitcoin's like nothing that we've ever seen before. So how are you going to judge interest rates? Like, it's probably going to be way higher than what we ever could imagine, just because this entire system is built completely different.
Let me throw this out there real quick. Okay, so a 10-minute block settlement is a bottleneck, right? But for contracts, but with things like Lightning Network, I really believe that what we're going to see, and I'll commit a little blasphemy here, is some of these like altcoins and stuff have been doing this kind of strange thing, but I suspect that we'll be able to enter into contracts that are measured in milliseconds. And so
actual money.
And so people, they buy yearly bonds for whatever and blah, blah, blah. But, I suspect there's going to be a mechanism where people will be able to enter into contracts for an hour, and they'll be able to earn, so think about it that way. What is the risk reward for lending your Bitcoin for an hour? You know, like that might be pretty cool at 6%, you know, like, or whatever. Like, I'm thinking the main point is we need to think of time differently when it comes to like these contracts, and we should think about them in milliseconds, just like there's speed trading and, you know, like all this stuff where it's high, you know, speed networks that are trading together and stuff. I suspect that there will be mechanisms where we can enter into contracts measured in milliseconds, and that way there's going to be a minimum risk because your Bitcoin is not in your possession for literally milliseconds or whatever. And then but so that's how they might kind of mitigate the interest thing, is we're going to borrow your Bitcoin for a set number of milliseconds and we're going to pay you this much for it. That might be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
I didn't mean to like take over.
We're all just like, whoa.
I'm just like,
So,
what?
I don't know. Like I don't know about the milliseconds thing. I'm just jumping in the conversation now. I was trying to get some.
Why, dude? Like, push your mind. There's going to be products and services that
Take some
you
mushrooms,
cannot
man.
even
Expand
imagine.
your mind.
Like, think out 50 years.
I feel like
You're gonna be the pawn shop of
maybe
Bitcoin.
maybe the flash loans thing is a thing, and like you're gonna be able to aggregate capital like that. But I really do think that like Bitcoin is the opposite of what we've been accustomed to. Like Bitcoin is like
What Randy
is
said
about
is the opposite.
sustenance. It's about like going backwards. It's about stasis. It's about holding. It's about not moving, and it's like a counterbalance. Like if anything, like people fear that the eco, like the green people are gonna hate Bitcoin, but I feel like as the knowledge gets out there, like they're not, because they're gonna understand what it is. It's about going back to our roots. It's about making things that last. So I don't know, like maybe I'm just like too in love with like long-term thinking and like this idea of like 21 million, but I really do think that that's like Bitcoin's nature. It's about not doing things for milliseconds. It's about doing things for a long time.
Can I just say?
So I don't know.
I respect and empathize with what you're saying because I am super bullish on load time preference. That being said, the world is rapidly changing, and I think that we're going to see new products and services emerge. I mean, the gig economy, for one, is just like changing the way we view everything. But I mean, like earlier we were talking about funding citadels. Like, we need banking and we need services, and we're going to need some ways to fund this. Like, how is a pleb supposed to build a fucking citadel? Well, they're going to need a fucking loan, and that's how they're going to do it, is through banking.
Bitcoin, open dime.
You know, even profitable companies like Apple carry, you know, a debt. Like they borrow money even though they have a treasury. It's just part of business. And so I just think that it's some of this stuff will just carry over because people are going to want loans. And so I just don't think that it's wrong.
I feel like on that point though, I feel like eventually all these giant ass companies and some smaller companies that aren't public, as we saw with Tahini or whatever their name is and others, Snappa, people are putting their treasuries into Bitcoin, as we have learned and established. And those are the companies. And like Jeff Booth has said, this is happening in like conference rooms of governments and so on and so forth. These are the people that are accumulating Bitcoin, and these are the giant ass companies that will be paying in Bitcoin. And as people receive their income in this new worldly deflationary asset, where their purchasing power is beyond what their mind's capacity could even imagine, for the first time ever, maybe they won't even have to take out loans. And if Bitcoin is going to do what we think it's going to do, maybe that'll happen in the next 10, 20 years. I might sound uber bullish and uber idealistic, but I don't think it's impossible.
So I totally agree with you, right? Like the Bitcoin way of thinking about it is like everything is equity based, and loans are just something that is like a lot more expensive. At least it's a lot more expensive. And that's why I asked about interest rate. You guys, we only got 20 more minutes left. I have a hard stop. I have a dinner reservation, so this thing is ending at the next 20 minutes here.
It's date night.
Something like that.
Got
Something
a
like that.
lady.
But
All
until
right.
then,
Good
we're
for you,
talking
man.
about mining. We're talking about this 14% difficulty adjustment, but there's more to it. There is
Oh, we
also fees skyrocketing, right? So blocks are coming slow. It's the quote-unquote end of the wet season in China. There are a lot of ASICs, S9s that were being powered for free on the cheap that are coming offline now. Who has some insights into mining, into this difficulty adjustment, into the network in general responding to it?
Doing
I
what
say
it
it's
does
bus-
best. Business as usual.
I say it's business as usual.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin at a fundamental level anticipated this kind of stuff. So I just, people try to FUD this kind of stuff, but it's built into Bitcoin. It's just part of the mechanism. And so I just, there's, some kind of short-term effect as the difficulty adjusts and this kind of thing, but it's just business as usual. It's just part of the characteristics of it. So no biggie.
I agree 100%. That's literally what I was going to say.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. But I was going to say, miners have 2 weeks to move their shit, and then that's the goal: move your equipment as quickly as possible to a more profitable region. I think it's super fascinating though, because this is just showing that the market is working very efficiently. There's limited block space and there's limited time, and blocks only come in, X per amount per hour. And this is a great thing. This is showing how Bitcoin functions. And a lot of the haters like to shit on high fees. But as a Bitcoiner long-term thinker, at some point in our, not too near future, I believe that fees will overtake the subsidy. And, I think this is an okay thing. And I'm not upset at all. If I need to make an on-chain transaction, I will pay the fee gladly, and just, sit on my hands and wait. And, that's also why I'm bullish on Lightning. So it kind of mitigates some of this bullshit that we're dealing with.
Yeah, I just add to that to say that, you're seeing the fees at some crazy high percentage. It's like, I'm looking at Clark's dashboard now. The fees versus reward is like 30%. So surely we can sort of put to bed this FUD that, like, in the long term, Bitcoin can't be sustained because the halving keeps decreasing the reward each 4 years.
I
was
think
clapping
fees
to that.
long term. I think long term fees will be competitive long term. I think as the block reward goes down, like, there's gonna be a governing kind of like, upper bound that is gonna force fees to be competitive long term. I think what we're experiencing in this time frame is, it's just kind of part of the network growing its legs. But I suspect long term, like somebody mentioned, how miners sandbag transactions. I suspect in the future, in the very near future, miners are not going to want to sandbag transactions because, like, the competition's going to be too high. And so there's things like that. I really believe in the free market, and the free market pressures will force fees to be competitive. I'm convinced of it.
So whenever I hear any fee FUD, all I say is, in order for Bitcoin to sustain its current hash rate, which is already the most powerful decentralized network in the world in terms of power that is allocated to it and computing power that's allocated to it, it just has to double every 4 years. all it has to do in price is double in order to continue paying out the same amount to the miners from just the block reward. So I think all of us expect Bitcoin to more than double, right? Like if it halves, right? So it goes from 12.5 to 6.25. All it has to do, the price has to do is double. Like it's more than double that price period. So any halving FUD is just absolute horseshit. They don't understand exponentials whatsoever. And honestly, like halvings are bullish because now there's scarcity and there's this liquidity crush. So we're seeing that right now, and it's awesome. It's awesome as a holder, personally.
And I sometimes don't get it because people are like, oh, well, it's $8 right now. Well, Bitcoin's at 13,000, but if it's $8 at 100,000, then it's less fee. So what's the big deal here? Call me crazy. I don't know.
You know, I like to mess around with charts and stuff like that. And my old projection of the next all-time high was about 74K. But I'm really, and I try to be really like, you know, level-headed about it. But I really think that that's a low estimate after, you know, really taking another look in some of the like recent developments. I mean, that 74K was a couple, you know, year old like estimate. And so I'm pretty excited. But, you know, one thing I wanted to mention is, and we've seen this a lot, and it's only going to get worse, is like the hacking and stuff. I mean, so I'm concerned. Like, I like thinking about price increases, but at the same time, it's like, we know what comes with it, man. And so like, what was that? There was like a recent hack in the last couple days with like Trezor or something like that, and something. And so
Ledger.
Oh, was it? I'm just concerned about that. I love talking about price and being bullish, but at the same time, it's like there's always that like, ugh, because you know what's coming with it. And so I just wanted to throw that out there for somebody that might be new that's listening to this, is like, be extremely careful and, you know, learn about how to secure your Bitcoin like correctly, because it's only going to get worse, man.
A lot of great content on YouTube, a lot of great content on Bitcoin Magazine about how to do that.
Thank you. Hey, I didn't mention anything particular. I just wanted to bring up that point specific, you know, generally speaking.
I was giving CK shit.
Oh, okay.
You got to always be selling ABC, guys.
Yeah. Shameless, man.
No,
shill it.
I love it.
C is closing. So you got to close on who you're shilling. Let's get that straight.
Always closing.
I'm done. I'm not.
Oh boy.
I mean, I just want Taproot to fucking pass. That's all I really give a shit about. More privacy, more efficiency. Taproot predictions. I mean, I've heard as late as like we have Taproot, it's not just like merge. We're fucking using it by June of next year. So, you know, that's fair, but I don't know. But Taproot 2020, BitBait or die. All you ASF this shit. But fucking Taproot, deal with it. All you wallet people out there and exchanges, get your shit ready for Taproot. If you want more activity and transactions, fucking use Taproot. You're welcome. You'll be thankful. And implement more pay to endpoints and all that good shit, because there's no such thing as taint at all. And fuck these surveillance companies trying to get us for money laundering, because the reason Bitcoin was created in the first place was against that shit and a broken financial system. And yeah, that's not much on mining, but that's where I stand.
All right. So, I mean, I agree that there's no such thing as taint. Like, Tim Draper still bought the Silk Road coins. So it obviously doesn't matter to him, so it's not going to matter in the long run.
Well, Bitcoin's been cleared. Of course, there's taint. Like, of course, you have these surveillance companies looking at Bitcoin transactions and observing them and tagging them and flagging them. And of course,
that's why you make every transaction a coin join, dude.
It depends on your time horizon.
What do you mean?
Like, is there permanent
You can't
taint?
regulate the
I don't think so.
unregulatable.
Maybe for some small period of time in Bitcoin history, like sure there could be some taint in my opinion, but not in a long time horizon. It doesn't matter.
The only world that I see where like KYC Bitcoin is like non-existent is when the Patriot Act just disappears completely. Like if I just don't see that happening in the near future.
That's why you got to push these wallets to always implement mixing and always by default make privacy solutions. By default, use pay to endpoint. Sure, make every single coin, if you look on a block explorer, say this coin was mixed. And then what can everyone do?
Well,
what can any surveillance company do if they look at the chain and see that every UTXO has been coin joined?
Bless up to BTC Pay Server, because they are actually implementing that stuff, and they are like a standardized part of the stack. And like people are just when they're gonna
arguably the most important company in Bitcoin.
Well, yeah, when they're gonna build into Bitcoin, they're gonna just like copy and paste BTC Pay Server. So that is very awesome. You guys, we're in the last 8 minutes here. Like I said, we got a hard stop at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 6 o'clock, depending on where you are watching, or somewhere in UTC time that I just don't know. And I'm sorry that I'm ignorant. But
hey, let me throw a couple things out there real quick since we're running out of time. I am bullish on the idea that some of these larger computer manufacturers get into dedicated hardware. You know, like I've been looking around and I like these like Pi nodes and stuff like this, but I suspect in the very near future, it's very easy for some of these companies to start manufacturing, you know, like a Hewlett Packard or Dell, like dedicated, you know, like node and this kind of stuff. So I'm looking out for that as a bullish signal. And, you know, one of the things I wanted to bring up is I suspect companies like ARM, you know, they're already like more out. See, Intel isn't quite as like flexible, but you know, companies like ARM, they're already used to like a faster like release cadence when it comes to like chips because of mobile phones. So I suspect that ARM could possibly get into the ASIC market, and I think that that would be a cool thing. And you know, one point that I wasn't able to say earlier is, you know, with this Iran thing and that region is it's undeniable that in like trade within countries is the greatest catalyst for peace. And so I'm optimistic for that region, just because if they share a regional currency like Bitcoin, I really think that like a sustained peace is extremely possible in that region. And I think that that's awesome. And I think that one day Satoshi Nakamoto should be, you know, nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize in computer science and economics.
Yes.
So
hey,
Randy,
those are my last words.
Okay, fantastic. I'm glad that you could kick off the last words. Let's go over to Phil. Phil, what are your last words for the audience, sir? Also, fantastic V. Fantastic V. I have to give that to you.
What? Okay. Oh, V. Yes, always rock the V. I'm a deep V voluntarist, bitches. Anyway, yeah, this was a great conversation. I totally agree with what Randy said. Where goods do not cross borders, arms will, but with power of Bitcoin and cryptography, we'll all live the sovereign individual thesis in our fucking citadels. I love you all. My name is Phil Gibson. You can find me on the Twatterverse, Twitter, at Mr. Sue. That is MRPSEU. I got a podcast called A Boy Named Sue. I talked to CK on there. It's good shit. We talked about leverage and Airbnb and fucking bullshit Corona market stuff. It was great. Very insightful. And I also wrote a song. It's called ETF. AKA and the Fed, bottoms up, drink up. Put my heart and soul into it, and I had the help of Richard James, and we just hashed out how fucking cool it was, everything that you see. And then Bitco, the infamous Bitco, created the artwork on there for it. But that's me. That's everything I showed. Also, stack your sats, stay humble, stack sats, and use Swan Bitcoin to DCA. It is peace of mind in everything that you do if you want to stack sats for the bull run, and chill lightly. But this was a great chat. It was great to meet y'all and see y'all again for anyone
Great
that
to
I
meet
was
you.
already acquainted with.
Yes.
And yeah, next chill.
Cheers. And for anyone who listens to that episode with me on, I was way too bearish, which shows you that the Fed can do more than you think. I was way too bearish. So I was saying, sell everything. We are all going to die. And that obviously has not happened quite yet. So maybe
Hey,
early,
it might
but who
happen
knows?
in the next epoch, man. You don't know.
Who knows?
You don't know.
So
Like
stay
every
humble and
Austrian
stack sats,
answer to like the
obviously.
market is like, we're Austrians. We know what should happen, but we don't know when it's going to happen. But save your ass. And the best way to save your ass is to stack sats.
Absolutely. And let's pass it off to Richard. So Richard, you made that video with Phil. Why don't you give your last words, sir?
Oh, I guess, yeah, like in terms of summing up what we talked about today, like, yeah, maybe the future is inevitably like regulated and KYC, but still like, fuck, this FinCEN and like a financial action task force and this travel rule bullshit. Like, I mean,
equals fat fuck.
Yeah, like that, like we should still be pushing, as Phil said, like we should still be pushing back on that in how, like, as far as you want to go before the state's monopoly on violence comes down on you like a hammer. Like you should, like, go and walk that fine line. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure to meet most of you guys for the first time and chat. Yeah, you can see I'm on Twitter, rjames_BTC, and you can see the links to my projects there, my film projects. So cheers, guys.
Great follow.
Also, check out his hardmoneyfilm.com, but also watch his Anatomy of the State. It's the narration of Guy Swan reading Murray and Rothbard's Anatomy of the State. It is beautiful. Read that thing, but also watch his film.
And film
it's
version.
Arguably better than Hard Money.
All right.
It was just
Thanks,
so
Phil.
beautifully
Amen.
done.
That's awesome.
It's a great
That's
film.
awesome. I'm okay. I'm
super
actually gonna watch that. So thank you for the show. That was an excellent last
Sound
show.
Money is so far.
So let's go to Cloaks, and then Mr. Andrew Yang, and then let's close it out with George.
Absolutely. Going off today with banking and shit. Self-custody your own shit. Don't trust banks with it. Fuck interest rates. Hold your own shit. You won't need interest on loans. Just saying. Anyways, besides that, 3D printer in every home, Bitcoin node in every home. Follow me at Crypto Cloaks or Rick 3D, Rick B 3D. I don't even fucking know. Other than that, good luck, guys. Stack stats.
You gotta know your handle, bro. Come on. Always be
I
shown.
don't even fucking.
ABS.
I'm like on two different fucking accounts, man. Half the time I don't even know.
That's it. You need minimum 5, bro.
Yang, let's go.
Pump those numbers.
Follow me on Twitter at eCurrencyHodler. A couple thoughts. Keep your eye on Lightning. Keep your eye on the RGB protocol. I'm going to say something a little controversial. I think there's some cool stuff being built in DeFi on Ethereum that could be used for Bitcoin. I love the concept.
Also, check out Hodl Hodl because they're making Ethereum.
Can I say boo?
Yo,
they're
real
good
quick?
DeFi. That doesn't break.
I'm sorry,
Hey,
Phil, but let's
Phil.
not interrupt. Let's not interrupt. This is
The last
Andrew's time.
And the last thing is,
Sorry, Andrew.
so if there are any builders out there looking to like get involved in Bitcoin, look into RGP, look into Liquid, look to build like financial applications on Bitcoin. Okay. And the last thing is, yeah, I have a mental health newsletter I write about once a week. If you guys are interested in learning more about that, go to HEEM publication, HEEM publication. That's it.
All right, George.
Yeah, so this has been killer. I got 1 minute here. I want to just say that I think as price continues to pump, the thing that comes to mind for me isn't so much that we're all about to be, super rich and all that. That's already like a given. And If we're serious about what we're doing here, it's almost an afterthought. It's not the primary thing. And so this hat that I wear that crosses off all the political labels as we head into the election, it just says Bitcoiner. And I think one of the things that I lament is when Bitcoiners fight about politics, because I think what we're up to is so much bigger than that. And so, I'm about to head to a Bitcoin meetup that I go to every week. And I think meeting Bitcoiners in real life is probably the most important thing we can be doing right now, because we need to build relationships. And we need to get serious about the fact that we're about to come into some serious fucking wealth. And we need to have a real strategy. And that starts with land. We need to figure out our land strategy. So that's what I'm gonna leave you with. We don't have one. I hate to break it to you. We're not gonna spend our Bitcoin on buying land from other people. So we gotta figure this shit out. So things are getting really serious. As the price goes up, we have to answer these questions. So thanks for having me. And hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Damn, sounds like a webinar. Sounds like we gotta do that.
Thanks, Christian. This is dope.
Yeah, you guys, this was a fantastic conversation. I seriously am sad that I'm forcefully cutting it off, but it has to be done.
Hey, I gotta say something.
Shout out to Neil deGrasse Tyson, man. You saw that tweet?
I've not seen that tweet. What happened?
I posted a link in the chat. He I was kind of like messing around, right? And he posted something, and then I posted a picture of a cold card and asked him what it was, and then his response was like perfect.
That was you?
Yeah. And so you couldn't really have planned for a better response. Let me
what did he say?
He basically says, clearly a space alien device they accidentally left behind after escaping hurriedly upon being spotted by people with cameras. And so that was his response to the picture of the cold card that I posted in his feed. And so that thing's had something like 37,000 engagements or some shit, man. It's
Bless up.
a lot of new people could possibly have been introduced to Bitcoin and this kind of stuff. So we all should be bullish, right? If Neil deGrasse Tyson is talking about some Bitcoin.
Look, I gotta say this last thing. This is good for Bitcoin, number one. Number two, you're talking about land. My buddy Kiwi.hodl, he's in New Zealand, and he is fighting the good fight for the natives of New Zealand to get their land back via Bitcoin. So check out a Timana Consortium, and they're actually fighting that fight in New Zealand. So that's a pretty cool thing to check out. But anyway, thanks for joining, guys. Yeah, I'll throw it in the YouTube chat. But yeah,
Joe,
this
while
has been
you're at
pretty
it,
rad.
why don't you plug yourself, sir?
Yeah, @_ Joe Rodgers. Check me out, guys. We just talk Bitcoin all day, every day. Love you guys.
Don't you put out a publication or something, Joe?
Yeah, words.pub. Check it out.
Hey, one more thing for anybody that wants to get into 3D printing, join our Telegram. 3D
Also, buy their shit. You can custom make 3D shit through them. Buy crypto cloaks.
But seriously,
great Christmas presents.
Join our 3D printing Bitcoin group on Telegram. 3D
printing for everyone.
Bitcoin.
You need to get a short URL.
While we still have an audience, I'm gonna give one last shill, and that is for BitcoinBlackFriday.com.
Oh, we still have an audience? Shit.
Yeah, BitcoinBlackFriday.com.
I'm
Go
sorry,
over
guys.
there. You can win an entire Bitcoin if you sign up for the Fold Bitcoin back rewards card. We just launched this promotion today, and it's going all the way until Black Friday. So if you sign up for the Fold back rewards card, you are entered into a raffle for an entire Bitcoin. So check that out.
By the way, I'm going to ask for all the plebs. Does that count for all the early listers? Do you know? Are we automatically in?
I need to talk to Will tomorrow to lock in stuff, but you may have to jump through the hoop of just putting another email in. So I'm just throwing it out there, but that may be a reality. So for those of you listening, but just jump in there. Why not? We're going to be using a random, we're going to have a list of qualified emails, and we're going to have a open source software that is going to choose the emails at a random basis, and then we will present someone with one whole Bitcoin. So that's it. That's it. Yeah. So go check out BitcoinBlackFriday.com. Go follow all of these gentlemen. Go watch this video multiple times afterwards. This was a great conversation. Bless up to everyone. I'm going to roll the commercials. Bye.